Hey guys, I'm David Radulovich here with Jeff again, and we are going to be talking about how to interpret your shot cam footage to understand where you're missing. Now, the thing about that is that we need to actually understand that the where you are missing is actually the effect of the why. So the interesting thing about a shot cam is it doesn't just give you where you miss, it's actually going to show the whole shot from start to finish in 4K at 60 FPS or 2.7K at 120 frames per second. That's incredible detail to be able to pull as much information as you need from this. First thing we have to introduce is just that we need to make sure that we understand that when we're watching these videos, we can miss in front, behind, above, or below for infinite different reasons. So what's important to understand is not where, because you can correct the where, but it doesn't actually correct the movement that caused the where, and it's just going to keep happening again. If you focus on fixing your leads, you're only working on half of the game. If you focus on fixing your movement, you correct the half of the game that is movement, but then that transfers over and actually ends up fixing everything. So what we need to do is let's look at a couple different mistakes of shots that you just made out on that target over there. So this is a video where if we actually look at where the shot goes, you missed in front. Okay, and so you could say, oh, well, I missed in front, we got to change that. But the reason why you missed in front of this bird is because if you look at the beginning of the shot, you're starting a little late, and that's causing the eyes to see the bird quickly. So in response to that, you're speeding up your movement, and at the end of the shot, you're kind of pulling the trigger in an acceleration. Now, this is different than a method of approach to pulling away. It's actually a response to the beginning of the shot. The way to correct this would be to say, okay, I need to have more of an emphasis on my visual pickup and starting in time with the bird. That's going to allow me to fluidly connect to the shot in the middle of the movement, and then you wouldn't see that correction at the end that actually was an overcorrection and as you miss in front. Okay, so now in this video you can see how basically what's happening. You see this like unsynchronized choppy movement. When we lose the feeling of that synchronization with the bird, what's happening is that we're paying attention to too wide of a circumference around the central part of our vision, and it's basically we're trying to keep track of making our eyes move smoothly with the bird and the gun, which is neurologically impossible. You can only do one. And so that change, that rigid and back and forth movement you're seeing is the eyes going back and forth between the target and the gun, or the target and the gap. And basically every time you desynchronize movement with one of those objects, that's where that disconnection happens. And so again, like you miss behind, but it doesn't matter that you miss behind because you could have equally as easily missed in front. What you would see from this video is if you see, like this type of movement happening, you want to basically say, okay, that's a visual issue. I need to work on picking the bird up visually better in the beginning and holding on to it longer.
And if you see it better, you're more in sync with it and more connected.
Yes, yeah, let the eyes drive the body, not the other way around. Okay, so now on this bird, this is the F, the foxtrot target, going from right to left, coming up at a 45-degree angle. If you watch this shot, you're going to see that you miss below. You see it like right there. Again, doesn't matter that we miss below, because the attempt to correct missing below would literally result in the exact same thing every single time, because the way that this movement is happening here is actually telling me, watching this footage, that basically as the bird was coming up, even though you started in time with the shot, and there's this big gap of the bird being below and to the right of your gun, as you have this beautiful harmonious movement coming up, right at the end, you see how the movement flattens out? Yeah, bird goes up, you flatten out, and the target ends up above you. The reason why that happened is because in the beginning of the shot, when the gun was out of the face, you're looking at the bird because the gun isn't visually distracting or inside of that central part of your vision. But then as the gun came up into the vision and the mount finished, then the depth of focus that you had pulled in from the target to the gun, which meant that now you're not able to see through the gun anymore because you're converging both of your eyes on that gun. It's the same thing if you have your hand out and you look at the grass, you can see through your hand, but then you look at your hand, you can't see the grass anymore. Same thing happened with you on this shot, right as the shot was trying to be triggered, because guess what we did?
We looked at the gun.
Yes, because if you tried to aim to make your shot happen higher, literally you would never be able to see the target. So it would continuously happen every time. So on this shot, the correction would be you need to pull the trigger while fluidly and always seeing the target underneath the gun through those two ghost barrels, so to speak. All right, so now here's a shot. This is on the B target again. And you can see right at the shot you missed above it, right? Doesn't matter where, it just matters why. What happened here is I want you to pay attention to how you see that your hold point in the beginning of the shot is starting off a little too high. Okay. And then what happens is, so this is a flat bird, so the bird's coming out flat and you see the shot cam being a little too high, and as you're mounting the shot, you see how it's kind of like inconsistent rate of speed, going up and then kind of flattening, going up and kind of flattening. Yep. What's happening there is because we started too high in your posture, as you were mounting the gun, it was bringing the gun over the line of the bird or higher above the line of the bird. Because you were looking at the bird well, you non-consciously were able to feel the fact that that was happening.
I was trying to correct.
And you were trying to correct, yes. And so then basically the reason we missed above, because watch this, right before you miss above, look how your gun goes under the line. Do you see that?
Oh yeah,
yes.
And because I saw the bird clearer, I thought I did.
So the gun goes under the line because at the end there was a big correction of a change in posture by leaning forward. And this is a movement that always happens all the time when we're too high over the line. Everyone will have a tendency to redistribute their weight forward, which in turn brings the gun down, right? The problem with that is we lose balance and we can't control it because it isn't a balanced and controlled move. And so then what happens is because that balance is moved forward and the gun is going down, we get to a point where it's like the point of no return. You're past your central point of balance, and then as a correction, the front hand will push the gun up back into the line. But because that's happening at the same time that you're moving forward uncontrollably, it happens at a really quick rate of speed right at the end. You see like this up and down, up, down, and then up real fast. Yeah. A lot of times, if you don't notice that that's happening when you're practicing, pay attention to this. After you shoot, do you have to recenter your balance backwards? If that happened and you see this in the video, then you know that it's probably because either your posture is too high, your hold point is too high, or your hand speed is too fast bringing the gun over the line. Okay, now, if we look at this video, it's that B target again, the left to right crosser. You can see essentially how this is a very unique look to this in the shot cam videos, but a lot of people are going to see this when they watch. It kind of looks like there's this weird lagging of momentum where as the bird comes out, it almost looks like it's magnetically repelling the gun. Yep. So it gets close and then the gun accelerates off but then slows down again like a little wag movement. On this shot, basically what happened, if you watch a third-person video of you attached to the shot cam, is that when the bird started to go to the right, instead of rotating in your whole body, what happened was you pushed from your left foot to your right foot and to redistribute balance, and that moves the gun without rotating the gun. If you throw the gun with the hands too early, then you're going to run out of space to go, and the gun will stop, and then the bird will be past you, and that will be missing behind. If you throw the guns too late, you'll be accelerating through it, or going way too far in front when you pull the trigger and miss it.
This is what we had here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here is the last mistake they made. This is on that incoming teal, just straight up and straight down. And you can see, do you see this weird movement like in the middle of the shot where it looks like the gun just flies to the left and then to the right?
And I felt like I was coming straight up the line.
Yeah. What this is coming from is essentially, you'll see this more if you shoot out of the shoulder, so low gun, which you were, and it's essentially a horizontal pivot of the mount coming from having the gun too far outside of the body in the stock, but across the body in the front. And so as the gun is coming up, essentially what's having to happen is the back of the stock is having to pivot from outside the body into the shoulder. And that causes, you won't even see this happening in your gun if the pivot point of this horizontal pivot is the end of the barrel. because everything in your if you're watching the barrel go up, you will see it look like it's dead straight.
Right.
But the cool thing that differentiates the shot cam from seeing your gun is that the shot cam shows you the infinite plane of the point of impact.
And the back end of the gun is moving back and forth.
Right. So even if the pivot point is right here, the shot cam is looking out there to show you what you can't see is happening. And what's happening is you're going all over the line of the bird left to right. Now, it's evident to see in this teal, but where this would absolutely drive you mad is if you're shooting a bird that's crossing, because you'll see the gap collapsing in a very weird flicking way, like a horizontal flick, and it will look, you won't be able to identify where that movement is coming from. It's all coming from the backhand. The fix for this is to bring the gun out in front of the body, and as you call pull, or before you call pull, see that the gun is an extension of your dominant eye. A really good little check for this before you call pull, if you have a front bead and a mid bead like on your gun, is see those two beads aligned. If you see them side by side, you know that that movement is going to happen. You just want to see that this bead is directly underneath this bead.
It's not, yeah.
Yes.
This bead is off to the side of that bead.
Now, as a right-handed shooter, that flick is going to happen to the right.
Gotcha.
As a left-handed shooter, that flick is going to happen to the left in the shot cam, because you're basically coming from outside to the shoulder or outside to the shoulder.
All right, now that's useful.
I mean, literally all of these mistakes that we're showing, so many of them can be eliminated by having a perfect setup. Everybody tries to be conscious about what they're doing after they call pull until they pull the trigger. And they're unconscious and they don't think about anything for all the unlimited time that you have up until the moment you call pull. If we just flip that around and we think about what we do and we're deliberate and attentive to our movement and our setup and our points, and we get it right, then when you call pull, you can just stop thinking.
And the shot happens versus having to force it or correct it.
Exactly.
Find it.
Yes. Yeah. Because like I said, all of these are caused by just a subtle difference in the way that you were standing or holding the gun when you called pull, which could have been changed before you even called.
Yeah, I wouldn't even have noticed this watching the video. Until you pointed it out, I wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah. Very cool.